journey really started as a student in college. I had the amazing, life-changing opportunity starting as a sophomore. So I was about 19 years old, of traveling around the world with the UN World Food Program. And at the time, they were looking to get more young people and students active in the fight to end world hunger. But hunger is this, affects more than 800 million people worldwide. It's this very far away, kind of abstract, overwhelming world issue, yet it still kills more than HIV, TB, and malaria combined. So hunger is a very real, very important issue. And I just felt in visiting families and communities, and especially children, just because of where they're born into a life of poverty and of hunger and not knowing where their next meal is coming from. So through that experience, I wanted to do more, and I myself was debating what I wanted to do with my life after college. I had modeled for a little time there, so I had a bit of exposure to that, and I thought either I'll go, be a fashion designer in New York, work for a fashion design house, or I'll move to Burma and deliver food aid. So I was debating for myself these two very different life paths. And that's when I had the idea for the feed bag, because I thought, gosh, why not sell something people want to buy and carry around or give to their friends, that also gives back in a really tangible way. So every product we sell and make has a number on it. So this bag, when sold, gives 100 meals. So it's very clear and very tangible for consumers exactly the impact they're having through their purchase. It really does cost so little to do so much. And the program I saw really working around the world in the poorest countries was school feeding. So kids today in 62 of the poorest countries around the world are getting a free, nutritious school lunch. And what that does is it gets kids to go to school, stay in school, they learn better. Even in countries, we were talking about this, where girls' education isn't valued, girls are more likely to go to school because the World Food Program will send them home if they have a good attendance record with extra food rations for their family. So they're essentially bribing families to send their girls to school. So it's this amazing program that really is hopefully helping children, lift out of the poverty cycle they were born into. So that was truly the program Feed was founded to start, but as a consumer. So hopefully turning consumers into donors, into advocates, and doing so through a burlap bag.
Well, and now many beautiful bags, and I think it's important to note that Feed is a for-profit enterprise because you're really trying to market to the consumer. There's a way to have beautiful products and really make a difference.
So yeah, Feed at the time, although my intention was very much that of a nonprofit, we started as a for-profit because I wanted to be a regular consumer goods business that happened to be giving away most of our profits, and we are still extremely charitable. And so I'm very proud now that so many other people, especially young people, are graduating from college or business school even, wanting to start for-profit ventures, but with this give back or social good as kind of core to the mission. And shortly after, we realized retailers, but also consumers said, okay, I bought a bag, I want to do more. So we started a foundation on top of it in order to take donations, and really we passed those out to the great organizations doing the work on the ground, like the World Food Program, now Feeding America here in America, City Harvest, Food Bank for New York, so many other wonderful partners on the ground that we support. But we realized beyond that, people in our community were wanting to get together and do more. So we came up with the idea of Feed Supper, which is essentially grassroots dinners that are taking place around the country, around the world, and for the month of September 16th, ending October 16th. So we have a few more weeks or days. The goal is to raise 1 million meals collectively. So it doesn't cost very much at all. So $1.10 gives 10 meals. And you basically host a supper, and with that raise money to give meals. And half the meals go abroad to that school feeding program I talked about, and half the meals will stay here. And really, it's just been so heartwarming and amazing to see people latch onto this and do it in creative ways, whether it's on college campuses, whether it's at Goldman Sachs, whether it's in your home or your favorite restaurant. And again, collectively kind of coming together around the table and truly share a meal.
Tell us a little bit about Feed America and the broader coalition, and how we can actually even help more here in the United States.
Sure. So nearly 50 million Americans are food insecure. Kind of shocking, 2/3 of hungry Americans choose between medical care and food. 1/3 choose between paying for education and paying for food. So Americans are truly making trade-offs to just put food on the table. So I would say the most innovative food banks and soup kitchens out there are doing their best to kind of go where the need is greatest and serve people with dignity. I think one thing I've also seen is there's a lot of choice shopping, which means essentially as you and I would go to the grocery store and pick what we want to eat and cook for our families. A lot of nonprofits and food banks now around the country are set up where clients can do the same. So they show up and they have a certain, depending on how many people they have in their family and their need, they're able to literally shop in like a mini grocery store with different options. So it's wonderful to see how people are not only reaching people with food, but also I think keeping that dignity intact while they do so.
And you noted 50 million Americans being food insecure, millions and millions and millions more around the world. But it also, hunger disproportionately affects women and young girls and boys. Tell us a little bit about that. I think that I had read something like 80% of the hungry of the world are women and children.
No, exactly. Women tend to be more responsible with the family funds and thus will sacrifice their own meals to feed their family and feed their children first or put their children through school. So in areas around the world where hunger and poverty really does persist, women are affected the worst out of that. And traveling, as a woman who grew up in America, who never wanted for food, for education, for anything, like so blessed to go and to see that so many women and girls, just because of their gender, in these already very hard situations, their life was made even harder. For me, really affected me. So we love, supporting school feeding, which again is kind of equalizing the playing field by essentially bribing parents to send their girls to school. And there's so many other wonderful programs.
If people really want to do more to support your work, what can they do?
On the site, we're also just collecting straight donations. So if it's not hosting a Feed Supper, you can also donate to our Feed Supper goal of reaching 1 million meals. And then really, truly, I think of us as a conduit for others to feel empowered and get involved in the fight to end hunger and kind of change that mindset to saying this isn't something that has to exist. This is something we can put an end to. And the ultimate goal of Feed is for us to close up shop and be fed, change our name. So, that is happening around the world and around the country, and I do have hope that, many families, the goal is not to rely on this food support, it is to be self-sustaining, and people want that. They don't want to be, again, relying on these programs. It's wonderful these programs are there, and it's necessary abroad and here, but ultimately that's what families and communities are working towards. And so there are the Millennium Development Goals. And the thought is, the goal initially was to halve world hunger by 2015, and the hope is we could even get there. So even the past decade, the number of hungry people has decreased by 100 million. So although their population has gotten more, hunger has actually decreased. So there is actually a hopeful trend happening that, people are getting fed and getting the nutrition they need. And obviously we all wish that could happen more quickly and yesterday, but it is kind of moving in the right direction given all the wonderful programs out there.
Well, maybe I'll add to that as our closing question, which is, you kind of hinted at this, go from feed to fed, but really 5 years from now, 10 years from now, which is really, more likely, what would be sort of your greatest dream in this space, and particularly kind of what would you hope the legacy of Feed will have been?
Ooh. Well, again, I would love to close up shop in 5-10 years, but given that may not happen, I just hope that Feed as a social good brand is even stronger, and that we're able to reach well over 84 million meals. Our goal is actually by a 10th year anniversary, so February 2017, to have given 100 million meals. So that's kind of our near goal that we're aiming towards. But really, I think too, I also love talking to other, entrepreneurs or, people looking to start businesses that really embed that social mission and are truly out to make the world a better place.